Because your husband is seeing that you are blaming him. Your husband is seeing that you are speaking with anger, that you're not communicating with love, that you're not communicating with him, that you're only pouring out your anger. And you agree with me that when you speak in that manner, that you are only pouring your anger to your husband. So because you're angry that he overspent, you're now communicating in a way, you are now speaking in a way that will showcase your anger. So when you are correcting your spouse and you're showcasing anger, when you are correcting your spouse and you're showcasing frustration, there's no way they will take to your advice. Don't correct your spouse to showcase your anger. Don't correct your spouse to showcase your frustration. Don't correct your spouse to prove them wrong. A lot of couples have been doing that. And when you do this, there's no way your correction will yield result. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Transforming Marriages with Uju Onwuzliga. I am thrilled to be your host today. And I want to ask you, do you know why your spouse not only rejects your corrections? Do you know why it often escalates into a fight? Do you know why it often escalates into heated debate? And do you also know why it often escalates into avoidable arguments? A lot of couples have come to ask me questions like, why is it difficult for my wife to take to my correction? Why is it difficult for my husband to take to my correction when it was all obvious that he did something wrong? Have you been asking that question also? If you have been asking that question, you are not alone. Millions and hundreds of millions of married couples have also been asking the same question. So the problem is not about correcting your spouse, but the problem is this: there is something fundamentally wrong that many couples have been doing, and until you address that fundamental problem, there's no way you expect your spouse to take correction whenever you correct them. So many couples today are confusing correction with reprimanding. So when you reprimand your husband or your wife as opposed to correcting them, there's a big difference. There's a whole lot of difference between correcting your spouse and reprimanding your spouse. When you reprimand your spouse and not correcting them, there's no way you achieve result. There's no way they'll be able to take to your correction. And that is what I want us to learn today. So to showcase to you the difference between reprimanding your spouse and correcting your spouse, I want us to look at this scenario. Assuming you have a fixed budget for the month, and this budget you've agreed with your spouse that you can never overshoot this budget for any reason. And it happened that in a particular month that your husband overshot that budget, your husband overspent. Now the question is, how would you approach that situation to make sure that you achieve results with your correction? This is a big issue for a lot of people. Now, I'm going to start with reprimanding. What many couples would do is to say things like, my husband, why are you wasteful? Why did you overshoot the budget? I don't want that to happen again. Now, when you speak in that manner to your husband about overshooting that budget, do you think what you said or what you have done, do you think you have corrected him? No, you have not corrected him. And your husband too is not seeing that as a correction. Your husband is seeing that you are heaping blames on him. And there's no way you can achieve result. If your intention is for your husband to be careful next time, not to overspend, if you come in that manner to say to him, why did you overspend? Or why are you wasteful? There's no way you can achieve results, because your husband is seeing that you are blaming him. Your husband is seeing that you are speaking with anger, that you're not communicating with love, that you're not communicating with him, that you're only pouring out your anger. And you agree with me that when you speak in that manner, that you are only pouring your anger to your husband. So because you're angry that he overspent, you're now communicating in a way, you are now speaking in a way that will showcase your anger. So when you are correcting your spouse and you're showcasing anger, when you are correcting your spouse and you're showcasing frustration, there's no way they will take to your advice. Now, another approach you can use is the approach I advise couples to always take. Always correct your spouse with love, regardless of what they have done. Someone has said to me, how do you expect me to correct my spouse with love given what he or she has done? I understand. I understand what you are trying to say because I am also a husband. I understand what you are trying to convey. But the thing is, my question is this, and this is what I always ask couples. Do you want to achieve result? Do you want your correction to yield fruit? If you want to achieve result with your corrections, you must always correct with love. You must also correct with respect. Don't correct to point your spouse's errors. Don't correct to tell them that, you see, I thought you are always right. Don't correct to prove them wrong. That is a wrong thing to do. So when you correct with love, there's no way your spouse will listen to you. So how would you correct? Having given you an example of how the other person reprimanded the husband, thinking that she corrected the husband, what is the right way to correct your husband? What is the right way to say it or put it across? The right way to put it across is to say something like, it seems we overspent our budget this month, and I've looked at this statement and I noticed that you made the most of the expenses. Can we look at the statement again so that you'll be able to readjust how you spend so that we'll stick to our monthly budget? If you speak in this manner to your husband, I bet you there's no way that man won't take to your correction. If you speak in that manner to him, I bet you, even if he's the devil, there's no way he won't listen to you. And there's no way he won't pay attention to whatever you're saying. And there's no way he will not take to that correction. So the problem is not the correction itself, but the problem is the manner of approach. The problem is the way you couch that correction. And this is what a lot of couples are getting wrong. Don't correct your spouse to showcase your anger. Don't correct your spouse to showcase your frustration. Don't correct your spouse to prove them wrong. A lot of couples have been doing that. And when you do this, there's no way your correction will yield result. When you reprimand your spouse, there are three things that you're creating. And I know that these things that are being created, a lot of couples are not aware of it. When you reprimand your spouse, instead of correcting them, you're creating what is called a wall of defense. You are helping them to become defensive. And this is why a lot of discussions or a lot of communications you have with your spouse will usually end up in argument, all because when you open your mouth to complain or tell them what they have done wrong or to correct them, right, in their minds, they are busy forming, engineering, orchestrating, shaping what their response will be. And they are doing that because you did not correct them in an appropriate way. They are doing that because your correction to them is blame, blame, blame. There's no iota of empathy in your correction. There's no iota of love in your correction. And when your corrections lack these things, lack show of love, lack empathy, there's no way you will achieve results. My advice is to stop reprimanding your spouse, because when you do, they will create a wall of defense. So the second thing reprimanding your spouse will do is this: it will create resentment. And what is resentment? Resentment is deep-seated bitterness. Do you speak bitterly when you are correcting your spouse? So imagine being bitter and you are speaking to your spouse, you are trying to correct them. There's no way they will take to your correction. And whenever we open our mouth to showcase how bitter we are or how angry we are, you're only creating resentment. And the third thing reprimanding your spouse will do is to create what is called hurtful feeling. Because they feel hurt by what you have said, there's no way you expect them to take to your correction. So in this video, I'm encouraging you, if you want your spouse to take to your correction, you need to ask yourself this: what do I want to achieve? Do I want them to take to my correction or accept my correction? If that is what you want to achieve, you must make sure you speak with love. You must make sure you speak empathetically. Don't speak to blame them. Don't speak to showcase your anger. Don't speak to showcase your frustration. When you speak to showcase your anger or your frustration, they will never take to your correction. But when you speak with love, when you speak with empathy, when you speak with the mind of getting them to change, they will take to your correction. And when you do that, you will enjoy your marriage. So if you found this video useful, I want you to please subscribe to this channel, like and comment, and share this video with others so that they too will learn. Till I see you next, keep supporting your spouses to be the best version of themselves and not the other way around. Enjoy the journey of your marriage.